Welcome to another edition of Radio Influencers, a podcast series we're doing for Radio Update. I'm your host, Andy Meadows. On last week's episode, we talked about the importance of radio people attending conventions and conferences and discussed a few of the big ones that should be on everyone's radar coming up this year. When we shared it on our Radio Update Weekly Wire newsletter that goes out on Wednesdays, we asked a related question: will you attend a radio convention or conference this year? We had a decent response. 1,780 radio people voted, and a narrow majority, 51.6%, surprisingly, said no, with 48.4% saying yes. So a little more than half do not plan on attending any radio-related conventions or conferences this year, which is a little discouraging. Hopefully they go back and watch the episode and maybe we convince a few more of them. But maybe we can get those numbers up if we keep encouraging our fellow radio people to attend these things. And I'm aware that coming from a consultant who speaks at these things and uses them to network and get more business, obviously, of course, I want more radio people at these things just for my own benefit, but I also know that every radio friend, colleague, and client that goes to radio conventions and conferences comes away from it invigorated, full of great ideas, and very glad that they attended. In part because of that surprising response to the poll question, I want to talk about something somewhat related on today's episode: vacations. Why some groups' paid time off policies make it hard for our industry to compete with others, why so many radio people don't take vacation time even when they have it, and why vacations are so important to our health and well-being. And if you have some thoughts on this particular subject, I'd love to hear from you at andy@radiostationconsultant.com. Time off and vacation policies. To be clear, some radio groups I know have worked for and worked with offer very competitive and fair paid time off, but far too many I know are way behind other industries. There are radio groups that offer 2 weeks, 10 days to everyone, even when people have been there for 20 years, and plenty of others that only add additional time after a decade or so of working for them. Some of that is cultural. Most other developed countries offer more time off than we do here in the U.S. traditionally, but most of radio is still behind other industries even here in the U.S. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average paid time off for employees with consolidated leave plans per year is 14 days after 1 year of employment, 18 days after 5 years, and 20 days after 10 years. I think it would help our industry compete with other folks, with other industries for skilled workers if we loosened up just a bit on our PTO policies. And I see signs that we're headed in that direction. In December, it used to be pretty standard in radio for most people to take off a few days around Christmas and New Year's. But last month, there were a lot of radio folks who essentially shut down things in the middle of December and weren't back until January or even a week into January. The stigma of vacations. For as long as I remember, many on-air personalities have been afraid to take vacations because everyone is afraid of losing their job to someone who fills in and is incredible, which is understandable. That's a very understandable fear because we've all seen that scenario play out before. It's the equivalent of the starting QB going down and the backup coming in, winning a bunch of games, and taking his gig. Like what happened to my boy Romo here in Dallas when Dak stepped in and never gave the job back. But my pushback on the radio side is always, if you're constantly innovating, evolving, and growing as an on-air personality, then you have nothing to worry about. Plus, actually living your life and having fun experiences is part of what makes a great and well-rounded on-air personality. Never leaving the studio tends to put talent in a bubble, isolate them from the real world, and makes them less relatable to the audience. Maybe it's because I started off on air and I grew up in a radio family and my dad didn't take a lot of days off. But throughout the majority of my radio career, I myself have been very bad about taking vacations, even when I got to the executive level roles where I accrued tons of time off that I could have taken. I think probably I've taken 1 full week of vacation at a time just once in my career. Usually I would take off a Friday and maybe a Monday at most. And the excuse I always give is that I didn't like coming back to a pile of work. and there's certainly some truth to that. But it's time we all stop bragging about never taking vacations and wearing that as a badge of honor, because we all know it's not healthy. The benefits of vacations. Study after study shows that there are massive health benefits when we take time off of work. It reduces stress by helping us feel more relaxed, improves sleep quality, boosts immune system and physiological health, enhances cognitive function, increases productivity and creativity, and it improves mood and happiness, all of which makes us a better employee and a better coworker. Actually unplugging. The key, of course, to getting all of those physical and mental health benefits is actually unplugging when we do take time off. Not listening to our stations, looking at email, working on proposals, taking calls, etc. This problem isn't unique to radio. Research indicates that 54% of individuals continue to work while they're on vacation. It's so prevalent, in fact, that they even have a term for it, workcation. But workcations don't prevent burnout, and they negate all those health benefits we mentioned earlier. I wrote an article last week about the things I'm going to commit to in 2025, and my wife was quick to notice that I didn't say anything about committing to take more time off. I've always loved what I do, but since I started consulting 6 years ago, and especially recently when I also took on the task of being the chief editor here at Radio Update, I really enjoy what I do for work. Because of that, I tend to find something to do 7 days a week. And even when we go on vacations, I'm really bad about checking and responding to emails. I write half a blog on my phone, take the occasional phone call. Plus, I tell myself that conventions are somewhat a vacation, but I know that's not true. There's certainly some fun mixed in there, but we all know that we're working before and after in our hotel rooms, and it's by no means a vacation. I mean, it shouldn't be. We're spending money to go there. It's work. So I'm really going to commit to do the same thing I encourage everyone I consult to do, and take a real vacation this year where I truly unplug for a full week, unless there's an emergency, of course. What are your thoughts on taking vacations and PTO policies in radio? What's worked and what hasn't? Email me at andy@radiostationconsultant.com or editor@radioupdate.com and let me know. Also, if you have some thoughts on this or any other hot radio topic, submit an article about it and email it to submissions@radioupdate.com. If we use it on the site, we will pay you for it. Thanks for listening, reading, and watching. We'll be back next week with a new episode of Radio Influencers. Radio Influencers is a Radio Update production. New episodes are released on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern.